Welcome everybody again to the official Bill Superfoot Wallace YouTube channel. Today, Bill is going to talk about a very interesting time in karate history here in the United States. It was, for those of you who remember, it was called the Blood and Guts era. And Bill's going to go into a lot of detail about that because a lot of us younger people, well, I'm 53, but much younger than me, they don't have maybe never even heard of that term. So Bill, welcome to your channel.
Thank you. It's good to be back. Subscribe to us and like us because
Yes.
We're having a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Please subscribe and please hit a like. And then if you'd like, put a comment in there. And I'm sure Bill would be more than gracious to answer your questions in there. So first of all, Bill, let's start from the beginning. When was the Blood and Guts era?
Well, it basically started in the South, in Texas area. Up until that point tournaments were basically the Japanese system, Japanese stylists. The Shotokan people, the Goju people, the Shorin people, the Shoreibu people, to where you have a tournament and it'd be front kicks, basically front kicks, maybe a side kick here and there, but kind of reverse punches. Then 65, 66, a lot of Taekwondo, Tang Soo Do people joined into the competition. Well, up until that point, groin kicks were allowed. Face contact was allowed, grabs were allowed, sweeps were allowed, takedowns were allowed, throws were allowed. So a lot of the Taekwondo people, Tang Soo Do people said, hold time out on the field. You know, we're not used to doing throws and takedowns and sweeps or whatever. We're not used to the groin kicks. We do a lot of high kicks, and I don't want to get kicked in the groin. And you have a tournament that normally has 400 people in the tournament. Well, I'm going to bring 150 students with me to your tournament. Can you change the rules? If you bring 150 people to my tournament, you betcha I can change the rules. It's just as easy. Basically, it's just as easy to kick to the stomach as it is to kick to the groin, unless you're trying a counter kick. When a guy throws a high kick and you throw the counter kick underneath, or just like a kick to where a donkey kick to where you bring your leg up, and I just turn, walk away, and bring the leg up and kick in with a heel into the groin. So what happened is 65, 66, they started changing the rules. The reason for that is out in California, a lot of Kempo people, the internationals, Ed Parker's internationals, great competitors, but really good groin kickers because they're not high kickers, but they have really good groin kicks. So they wanted those kicks in. So the internationals still had the groin kicks. The U.S. championships in Dallas, Texas, still had the groin kicks. Further east, you're talking now New York, South Florida, that area. Even Chicago still had the groin kicks. But east of that, basically they got rid of the groin kicks because of the high kicking and the Taekwondo people and so forth. But the era is primarily, I would say, 1966, 67, up until about 72. In 1972, a really good friend of mine named Pat Johnson came up with some rules. No contact to the face. Because at that time, because of us changing the rules and so forth, not us, but the powers to be changing the rules, what was the point? Well, in Texas, they like to fight. And when they would fight, they still grab, still swept, takedowns and so forth. So when they would fight, they would hit you, put the punch about yay deep into your ribs. And, I've got some stuff written down. In Texas, you wanted to see the technique, not only see it, they wanted to hear it. If you were punching somebody to the body, they wanted to hear that thump. If you threw a side kick at somebody, they wanted to see him get knocked back or get dropped or something else. Nobody, up in that point, nobody ever got disqualified for a technique to the body. Nobody got disqualified for dropping a guy to the body, knocking the wind at him, or whatever the case may be. To the face, maybe. But the rules back then too, if I punch you in the face, Jim, if I punch you in the face, if you get up and you're not bleeding, it's a point. If you're bleeding, believe me, I'll tell you a story in a minute. And if you are bleeding, they'll bring a doctor in and kind of fix it a little bit. But the great thing about it, Texas, I went to the U.S. Championship in Dallas, Texas, 1968-69. For the grand championship, Fred Wren from St. Louis is fighting Billy Watson from Dallas. They're fighting back and forth on back and forth. Now, understand, I'm from the Midwest. My father's a school teacher. My mother was a teller in a bank. So I'm not used to what I'm about to tell you. So they're fighting. All of a sudden, Fred Wren, boom, just nails Billy Watson right across the eye. Splits him wide open. Splits him wide open. It's a 3-round grand championship match. Splits him wide open. And they say, oh, Barry. And I'm thinking, okay, this is a disqualification, no problem. The doctor comes in, looks at the eye, lays him down on his back in the middle of the ring, and stitches Billy Watson up.
Huh.
No gloves, no antiseptic, just stitches him up. And I'm going, what the hell is going on here? You know, and I'm right there at ringside. I'm going, holy shit. So, pardon my expression on that one, but I'm going, whoa. They get up. He puts a piece of tape over it like a butterfly bandage, and they continue fighting. I'm going, why am I doing this? This is supposed to be fun. Because back then, 68, 69, there was no money. There was no money. It was a trophy. You got a trophy. And it wasn't even that big a trophy. And the beauty of it is, it only cost us $9 to fight in a tournament. $9, not even 10, $9. Up to that point, it was only 5. Out in California, when I competed in 66, 67, it was $5 to enter a tournament. But again, California, when I fought out there in 60, 66 and 67, you know, if you came close with the technique, they would call it. You could throw a punch to the body, throw a kick to the body. If you didn't drill him, it was still a good point. I'm fighting a guy named Donnie Williams, good friend of mine. He was in a force of 1 with me. I fought him in a force of 1. We're fighting first match in the lightweight division. Excuse me, heavyweight division. Because Skipper Mullins, who's a friend of mine, fought in the lightweight division. So I said, I'll fight in the heavyweight division, even though he weighs more than I do. But anyway, so we're fighting. I'm fighting Donnie Williams. He comes across the ring, boom, just nails me right in the chest. I went, ow. And he sticks his face in mine, goes, one of those things. I went, oh, good shot. Point. I said, yes, I totally concur with that. Good shot. We're moving around. I throw Raskin, take him right in the chin, drop him. He's out. Donnie is out, laying there. And I went, well, okay, I guess I go sit on the side now and watch the rest of these fights. And I can't remember who the referee was, but he says, point. And I went, what? He says, point. He's on the ground. He said, tough, point. And they gave him like a minute to get up. He gets up and he's all groggy. You know, after that, it was over. But I went, holy crap. I can do this? Now, I'm scared out of my mind because I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to get hit. And he says, oh, yeah, it's like that down here.
Wow. So what you're saying, Bill, is, you know, that era, you know, the mid 60s to late 60s, it was primarily the term, the blood and guts era that we know today was in Texas area. The rest of the country, you know, you guys were fighting hard, but not like that in Texas.
Chicago is kind of like that too. Chicago, they're really good fighters in Chicago, but they're Jimmy Jones's people and Kenny Knutson's people. You've heard of the Dojo Wars, right? Long time ago, the Dojo Wars that's where that came from, Chicago area. But yeah, I mean, it's just out there. And after that, I go to Chicago to fight in a tournament there. My first match was with Kenny Knutson, who was one of the top fighters in the entire country. He died in a plane crash several years ago, but he was tough. But anyway, we're fighting, and he comes charging. Bam, I hit him with a hook, a counter hook kick, put his nose over the side of his face, bleeding and everything. I said, well, I get to sit down again. The referee says, point. And I went, holy shit. So we do, well, I'll just do it again. I step in. As I'm throwing the rasket, he leans back and goes, bam. It wasn't a front kick. It was more like a punt. But anyway, it lifted me right off the ground. And I went, okay, good point. It was 2 points to win a match. Not 3, not 4, not 5, not 7.
Yeah. 2
points to win a match. So the score is 1-1, goes into overtime. So I said, well, I have nothing to lose because he's the favorite here. So I step in for the hook kick. At the same time I hit him with a hook kick, same time, he catches me in the groin with a front kick. And because Katie Knudsen, that's not the only reason, but it was a good shot. They gave the match to him. But again, contact was not only allowed, it was basically ordained, you might say. If you hit somebody and it didn't make a noise, too light, not strong enough. Because if you think about the old Japanese rules, a technique is a score if there's sufficient contact, sufficient power or speed that it could have done damage if thrown to its full extent. So Texas, that area, went and Chicago went a little just beyond that a little bit. So now you can nail them and get a good shot. As long as you didn't cut him real bad, as long as it wasn't malicious, it was a good shot. And you got score. You could score with it and whatever. But again, the East Coast, because a lot of those were primarily Taekwondo people, Kung Fu people, they were more controlled, you might say. Louis Delgado back in the late '60s, early '70s was one of the better fighters in the New York area. California, a guy, you had Chuck Norris, you had Joe Louis, you had bunch of guys, a lot of Kempo people were really bad there. Ron Marchini, all these guys, just really bad. Texas, China, you had Ray McCallum, Roy Kerbin, Billy Watson, Fred Wren, probably the baddest dude. And he just died last year. A really, really good friend of mine named Jim Harrison. His thought is, he'd look at you, he says, to beat me, you're going to have to kill me. And that's the way he fought. Wasn't pretty, wasn't powerful, wasn't strong, but the way he fought was very, very, very effective, very aggressive, and good karate technique. But, that's the way it was. You talk about the ones and where, when Fred Wren fought Jim Harrison for the grand championship at Dallas at the U.S. Championships. Match probably lasted a half an hour because everybody was for Fred Wren, and they were kind of for Jim Harrison, but they were more for Fred Wren. So when Fred Wren would score, they were, hey, happy, yeah. Then Jim Harrison would score back, and so there'd be more time left, so Fred Wren could score again maybe. Finally, I think Fred Wren went in overtime, but it was a superb match. And they beat the hell out of each other. But back then it was fun. Now understand, everybody, there was no equipment. There was no hand pads, no foot pads. Some of us wore groin protectors. Some of us wore shin pads. Some of us wore arm guard to protect against the blocks and so forth like this. But there were no protection on the hands. There was no protection on the foot. So you had to basically trust. You had to trust your opponent. And you just could say to yourself, hey, if I catch him with a really good shot, I'm expecting it back. Whether it's before the bell, after the bell, he's going to get me. And the referees knew this too. So the referees would be very successful, very in there watching the matches to where nobody got hurt that bad. You get hurt, you cut, get bruised, but nothing serious. It's always seriousness is the groin kicks and so forth like that, to where they tried to split you in half, you might say. But cups were getting broken all the time. Throws were, now understand, I forgot to tell you this part. Dallas, Texas. Now remember, throws, takedowns, sweeps are allowed, right? Dallas, Texas, we're fighting on a concrete floor. It's a concrete floor where they're doing sweeps, they're doing takedowns, they're doing throws, and they're doing grabs. You can grab. Joe Louis, back in '68, I think it was, grabbed a guy and did a side kick, threw the side kick, had his arm, had his gi, hit the guy with a side kick. The guy's gone. He's out of frame. But Joe Louis still has a hold of the gi top, the sleeve. And you go, oh, just throws it on the side. But yeah, I mean, it was back then, it was, if you were tough, you were tough. And they made you prove it.
Nice.
They made you prove it.
So that helped with the questions I was going to ask. I was going to say what were the rules and what were the padding, but you answered those questions. There was very little to no padding and only
The
two
only thing is
points.
you
Um,
couldn't kick a guy in the leg.
yeah,
You sweep him. Yeah, you
yeah,
could sweep him, but you just couldn't kick him in the leg. You kick to the groin, kick to the head, kick to the arms, kick to the body.
yeah. So that, I mean, it wasn't when it was sounded like it started in that Texas and Chicago area, but people from California, yourself from the Midwest, people from the East Coast, they were all going there because all those names that you mentioned, I've seen footage of all of them fighting in that era in Texas and so on. So I
Everybody,
imagine it must have been a very prestigious thing to go to because you had to prove your toughness. What were your favorite memories of you fighting in that time?
well, the first time, when I fought Donnie Williams, and I go, holy crap! You mean I get a point for dropping a guy? Because up to that point, I was fast, but I never fought strong, but I was fast. And now I find out that I can go in and throw the kick or throw the technique fast, and if I hit him, hey, goody, goody, goody. I don't have to control it per se. And then another thing is, I thought when the Kenny Knudsen in Chicago, when I hit him with a hook kick, broke his nose, and then he comes back and wins the tournament.
So, Bill, I would like to finish up this interview with maybe you listing your top favorite fighters of the blood and guts era, and then maybe in our next video we can actually go into depth about what made him so popular during that time, or at least popular in your mind. But who were your favorite fighters that you admired during the whole blood and guts era?
Well, I've got it written down right here.
Yeah.
Again, Jim Harrison. We've been friends since probably 1966. I was out in California in the service at the time. Went over to Ed Parker's karate school on Pasadena Avenue on Colorado Boulevard in Pasadena, and met Jim Harrison, a bunch of guys. Fred Wren, again, very, very good friend. These are top fighters. Kenny Knudsen from Chicago, tough son of a gun. He got killed in a plane crash, I think, 2006. Mike Stone. If you don't know Mike Stone, Google him. If anybody's seen my videos that we have Wallace's Wednesday, I keep talking about Mike all the time because back in 64, 65, he had a technique called a ridge hand. In Japanese, it's called haito. It's thrown like this. It's thrown this part of the hand right here, this part right there, and he hits you with that thing and you take a nap. He hit Alan Steen with it. He hit Pat Burleson with it. All these guys that hit with it, they would just go down and lay there for a while. So it was a very strong, and there was a point back then. So he would score with that. He was known for the ridge hand. And then you have Roy Kerman, very, very, very tough fighter. Billy Watson, again, tough guy. Some of the guys back then, and Benny Urquidez from Texas, or not from Texas, but from Los Angeles. Tough little guy, little lightweight guy, but could stand up with the best fighters. Now, I understand most people know him from kickboxing. But back in the late 60s, early 70s, he was a very, very good point fighter. Very aggressive. Joe Louis. What can I say about Joe Louis? He liked the blood and guts because he just put his foot through your ribs or hit you with a back fist and knock your head off and say, thank you very much, you okay. I don't know if anybody knows it or not, but Joe and I fought 3 times. And he would fight sideways just like I do. We're both in the same system in Okinawa. But he's got these golf balls on the end of his knuckles. And he's standing right there like this, showing with it right there so you can see him. And they're saying, I'm going to hit you with these 2 things. And it's going to hurt. So, it was always just looking right at you, knowing that's going to put in your ribs or beside your face or with a back fist or whatever. So Joe was very tough. Glenn Keeney, again, back in those days, he was called the Fox because he was sneaky. We fought day in and day out in Anderson, Indiana, when I was going to Ball State. But he was so sneaky. We would fight we'd be all over the ring, all over the mats. And we would fight. A lot of times he'd win the lightweight division. I'd go in the heavyweight division. We'd fight for grand championship in the Midwest and also on the East Coast. And then you got Jeff Smith. Jeff was just one bad dude. He was very, 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 very aggressive. Here I come. I have a front kick, I have a rear leg roundhouse kick, I have a spinning back kick, I have a reverse punch that's going to take your face off. And he was superb fighter. Yeah, again, we're going to leave out Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris, and fantastic, nicest guy in the whole world, nicest person in the whole world, and one hell of a fighter. People don't remember him from fighting because of the films, but back in 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, he was a top fighter in the United States. And then Louis Delgado from New York, he would throw a spinning back kick, broke Chuck Norris's nose. Team competition back then. And, one guy, again, died 2005, 2006, Howard Jackson. Tough little lightweight guy. Very fast, very strong, great puncher. He'd get from point A to point B in about 0.0 seconds. Skipper Mullins, back in the early 70s, was a toss-up kind of between he and I, who were the best kickers in the United States. And we fought in 1972 at the U.S. Championships in Dallas, Texas. In one corner, this was the grand championship. He won the lightweight. I won the heavyweight. We're getting ready to fight. Ed Downs is the head referee. Chuck Norris is in one corner. Mike Stone is in the other corner. Pat Burleson is in one corner, and Bob Wall is in the other corner. All five of these guys is Skipper's friend. Very good friends, because Skipper fought on their team together, even though he's from Texas. Ed Daniels was the head referee. He says, Bill, come here. So we walk up to the center, and Ed says, look around at the referees. So I look at the referees. I said, yeah. He says, I just want you to know that all four of these guys are Skipper's friend. You know what you're going to have to do to win? I'm from the Midwest. Hey, I could have killed you. He says, you're going to have to drop him. Huh? He says, you're going to have to drop him. If you want to win this match, you're going to have to drop him. I went, oh. So we bow in. Right off the bat, he comes in, tries to sweep me. I hit him in the chest with a hook kick. My counter hook kick that I throw, that you all have learned. Drop him. Chuck says, no point, hit him in the arm. Okay, no problem. He gets up, says, good shot. I said, didn't get the point. He said, what? I said, hit your arm. He stands up. This is the classiest guy in the whole world right now. He stands up, turns to the audience, opens his gi top up, and there's a big red heel print on his solar plexus where I hit him. And I said, you know what, Skipper? I don't care if nobody calls anything anymore the rest of the night. You and I are going to be friends forever. And we were.
Thank you so much for the interview, Bill. That was fascinating just to hear about those times. I mean, a lot of martial artists have heard about the blood and guts era, but to hear it from somebody like yourself who was there, who experienced it firsthand, that for sure is a treat. But before I let Bill give the parting words here, please subscribe to this channel, you guys. We have great stuff coming up. Hit a like on this video, comment for us. We would love to hear from you. Bill, anything else to say?
Join us, the official Bill Super Wallace YouTube channel. See ya.